I returned to my childhood home just a few weeks ago. My mother had passed, and I thought it was time to find some closure. The house looked old and faded. The garden was overgrown and wild. I grabbed a spade and went out there to plant some flowers for her. It felt like a good way to honor her memory. As I dug, I hit something hard. I froze for a moment, feeling a rush of adrenaline. I cleared away the dirt and pulled up a small, rusted box. A chill went down my spine. I thought about leaving it there, but curiosity took over. I opened it. Inside were unsettling photographs of faces I didn't recognize and strange symbols. I felt something twist in my stomach. What did this mean? I tried to brush it off, but I couldn't. That night, things got weird. I noticed the furniture had shifted. The chair I left by the window was now against the wall. I told myself it was nothing, that I was just tired. But then I started hearing whispers. They seemed to echo in the hallway, just out of reach. I felt the hairs on my neck stand up. It wasn't just in my head. The following day I ran into Mrs. Landry, my elderly neighbor. She used to smile and wave, but this time she looked at me with narrow eyes. I felt a shiver travel down my spine. Did she know something? It made me uneasy. That night I woke up feeling as if someone was watching me. It was suffocating. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. The air felt colder, pressing against my skin. I remembered the photographs. What if they were connected to something darker? I pushed myself to dig deeper into my mother's past. I started finding things in her old belongings. Old letters hinted at secrets I never knew. Why was the neighborhood falling apart? It was like a shadow hung over the whole place, and I felt it tightly wrapping around me. One night I was jolted awake by flickering shadows. I heard whispers again, closer than before. "What do you want?" I called out, my voice trembling. Silence replied. I tried to shake it off and went to the window, desperate for answers. That's when I saw it. A figure standing in the garden. I couldn't see their face, just the outline. Then, as quickly as it came, it vanished. My heart raced. I stumbled back, gasping. The chills ran down my arms. I needed to know what was happening. I had to figure out what my mother might have left behind. What had she found buried in the past? The next day I could barely think straight. I kept glancing out the window. Each time I did, I half expected to see that figure again. Was it real? Was I losing my mind? I felt the weight of the house pressing down on me. As I stood there, I couldn't escape the feeling that my mother had known something she never shared. And maybe whatever it was, didn't want to be found. I woke up the next morning feeling exhausted. My dreams were filled with those whispers. They didn't make any sense, but the tone was clear. Something was urging me to find out more. I couldn't ignore it any longer. After breakfast, I decided to visit Mrs. Landry again. Maybe she could provide some answers. I hesitated before knocking on her door. I didn't know if I wanted to hear what she might say, but I couldn't go on like this. When she opened the door, her expression softened a bit. "Oh dear," she said, looking me over. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I gave a weak smile, not sure how to explain. I found something in the garden," I started, but paused. I didn't want to sound irrational. "I was hoping you might know about it. The neighborhood, it feels different." Her eyes widened slightly, and for a moment I thought she might back away. "Some things are better left untouched," she said. Her voice was shaky, like she knew more than she was letting on. "What do you mean?" I pressed, feeling frustration bubble up. I couldn't keep dancing around the issue. "Do you know what happened here?" She sighed, glancing over her shoulder as if she expected someone to hear us. "It's the past, dear. There are things people like to forget. You best be careful with what you dig up." I stared at her, wanting her to elaborate, but she turned away. Disappointment washed over me. Why wouldn't she just tell me what she knew? I walked back home, feeling like I was chasing shadows. Mrs. Landry knew something, but what? I dug into my mother's things like a mad woman. Each box I opened revealed more secrets. Letters in my mother's handwriting, addressed to people I didn't know. One letter caught my eye. It seemed to talk about a group. They had gatherings. My mother warned of dangers that could arise if their activities were discovered. The words were shaky and frantic, like my mother had been frightened. Then I noticed something else in the letter, a date circled in red. It was the day she had passed. Was it a coincidence? My heart raced as I thought about the implications. Had she uncovered something before she died? Suddenly, a loud knock interrupted my thoughts. My heart raced again. Who could it be? I opened the door to find a thin man with piercing eyes. His expression was taut, his brow furrowed. "I need to speak with you about the box you found in your garden," he said, voice low. His eyes darted around. "We don't have much time." All the hairs on my arms stood up. I took a step back, my mind racing. Did he know what was going on? Before I could respond, a flash of movement caught my eye outside. A figure darted into the shadows near the edge of the garden. "Who's that?" I whispered, panic rising in my throat. The man turned sharply, eyes narrowing. "You have to come with me, now." He reached for my arm, but just as I was about to respond, the garden went pitch black. Everything around me faded into darkness, and a deafening silence swallowed the world. I squinted into the darkness, disoriented. Where had the man gone? I could barely see my own hands in front of my face. The once familiar outline of my home felt warped and alien. "Hello?" I called out, but my voice was swallowed into the void. Suddenly, a crackling noise pierced the silence. I spun around, my heart racing. The sheer absence of light set my nerves on high alert. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. Then I heard it. A whisper, distant yet unsettling. "You're not supposed to be here." "Who's there?" I managed to ask, but the words fell flat in the suffocating silence. I backed away from the door, my fingers brushing against the cool exterior of the house. I needed to think, to focus. Just then, a weak beam emerged from the darkness, illuminating the man's face. Relief washed over me, but it quickly morphed into fear as I noticed his expression. He was panicked, eyes wide. "We have to leave, now." "Leave? Why?" I felt shaky and unsteady. I had so many questions burning in my mind, but none could escape my lips. The situation felt surreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. He glanced over his shoulder. "They know you found the box. You've stirred something you don't understand." His voice trembled. "I didn't think it would happen so soon." "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Who knows? Who are you?" "I'm someone trying to help you," he replied. "But there's no time to explain. Follow me." He turned abruptly and darted toward my backyard, the fading light catching a glimpse of his tangled hair. I hesitated, the urge to flee battling the lingering curiosity. Footsteps echoed behind us and a shiver raced down my spine. "We have to move," he urged, pulling me along. I stumbled behind him, my mind racing with questions. What did my mother discover? What was this box? As we reached the end of the garden, he stopped. "There." He pointed to a small cluster of trees. "We need to get to that spot. It's safe." I looked at the shadows, a part of me wanting to turn back. What about the box? What should I do with it? He groaned, frustration seeping into his voice. "The box is just the beginning. It holds answers, but it's dangerous if you don't know how to use it." A loud rustling erupted from the direction we'd come from, followed by a voice that sent chills through me. "You can't hide forever." The man grabbed my arm tighter, pressing his lips into a thin line. "We have to go now." He led me deeper into the tree line, my pulse pounding in my ears. Just as the darkness began to close in around us, I caught sight of the faint outline of something half buried in the ground. "What's that?" I asked, pointing. That's where it all began. I looked at him, uncertainty flooding my mind. The air thickened with tension. Something was mixed in with the dirt, and I knew I had to uncover it. But as I knelt down, a terrifying realization hit me. Whatever lay ahead couldn't be contained. I started to dig, but my fingers met something hard. What is this? Just as I felt a cold grip on the object, the sounds of footsteps grew closer. The man's eyes widened in panic. We have to move, they're coming. But I couldn't stop. I turned to the man, searching for a sign of encouragement, and that's when I saw it. A glimpse of what was hidden beneath my mother's past. More than I ever expected. But time was running out. I dug deeper, my hands scraping against the cold surface. I could almost hear the faint whisper of my mother's voice urging me to stop, but I couldn't. Not now. Not when the fear behind me pressed closer, demanding action. Finally, my fingers slid around the object. It felt like a small metal box, rusted and aged. The edges were rough, as if it had been buried for years, forgotten yet pulsing with the weight of something significant. My breath hitched. "What is this?" I gasped, pulling it out from the earth. The man crouched beside me, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "It's the truth, but you need to be ready for it." Before I could respond, the rustling stopped. Silence enveloped us, and a chill settled in the air. I could feel every breath in my chest, the weight of anticipation pressing down on me. I lifted the box into the light, but instinct kicked in. "We can't stay here. Can you open it?" He shook his head. "No, you have to do it. Only you can." I looked down at the box. It was small enough to fit in one hand, but so heavy with mystery. What was inside? I felt my heart race again, and I nodded in determination. "Okay, I'll try." I fumbled with the latch, cursing the way my fingers trembled. Just as I managed to pry it open, the air shifted. I felt an unseen force pushing against us. "Quick," he urged, panic rising in his voice. "They're here." I threw the lid open and a blinding light burst forth, illuminating our surroundings. I barely had time to react when a shadow loomed in the distance. A figure stepped into the clearing, silhouetted against the radiant glow. They were draped in a long cloak, face hidden in darkness. Panic surged through my veins. Who was this person? "Give me the box," the figure demanded, voice low and chilling. "You shouldn't have disturbed it." I clutched the box tighter, heart racing. The man beside me stepped back. "Don't listen to them, it's not safe." The figure took a step closer. I could feel my body freeze. "You have no idea what you've unleashed," they said, voice dripping with menace. I wanted to run, but I also wanted to know. "What do you mean?" "Answers," they replied, "are best left buried." The ground trembled beneath my feet. Suddenly, the trees around us groaned, branches twisting unnaturally. I glanced at the man, who looked horrified. "We need to go." I didn't want to leave, but something in the air felt electric. I slammed the lid shut on the box, but it was too late. The figure lunged forward and I stumbled back, hand slipping from the box. Fear surged as the box flew from my grasp. In an instant, the light flickered. I watched, breathless, as the figure reached for it. "Stop!" I shouted. But they were too quick. The moment their fingers grazed the box, a rush of energy erupted, knocking us both off our feet. And that's when everything went dark. When I came to, the world felt muted. I lay on the damp ground, warmth radiating from my left hand where the box had rested moments before. I opened my eyes slowly, my surroundings blurry. Shadows danced in my peripheral vision, but I couldn't focus on them. "Are you okay?" A voice broke through the haze. It was the man from before. I tried to sit up, but a wave of dizziness hit me. I closed my eyes again, breathing deeply until the spinning stopped. "What happened?" I croaked. A hum filled my ears like the fading notes of a haunting melody. "You passed out. We need to get out of here." he urged. I glanced around and realized we were still in the clearing, but the figure was gone. The air, however, felt alive with tension. "No," I said, my voice firmer this time. "We can't just leave the box. It's important." I pushed myself up, gazing at the ground where I had seen the box last. To my shock, it lay there, untouched, the lid ajar. I stumbled toward it, heart pounding. There was something about the glow emanating from it that beckoned me. "What do you mean it's important?" the man asked, his voice laced with both concern and fear. I knelt near the box, the dirt still dark and loose around it. I could feel its energy pulsing softly, reminding me that whatever was hidden within had the power to change everything. "I need to know what's inside," I said, determination growing. He grabbed my arm, urgency in his grip. "That thing is dangerous. We don't know what it can do." "Neither do we know what it can tell us," I countered. Before he could respond, I reached for the box again, opening it wider this time. The blinding light washed over me once more, but this time I forced myself to look. An object lay inside, wrapped in folds of delicate fabric, exuding a faint glow. Slowly, I pulled it out, and my breath caught in my throat. It was a small pendant, intricately etched with symbols I didn't recognize. As I turned it in my hand, warmth spread from it, and images flickered through my mind. Snapshots of faces, places and memories half-formed, yet somehow deeply familiar. Could it be?" he whispered, eyes wide. "Your mother's?" "I think so," I replied, panic mixing with exhilaration. I unwrapped the pendant further, realizing the symbols matched the ones I'd seen in her old journals. But why would she bury it? Suddenly a low growl echoed from the shadows. My heart raced again. The air had shifted, and I was no longer alone. Dark shapes began to converge around the trees, creeping toward us as if they had risen from the earth itself. "We have to go now," he shouted, pulling me back. But I couldn't tear my eyes from the pendant. It felt significant, like it held answers I desperately needed. "Wait!" I cried out, but as I stood there, rooted in place, the shadows lunged forward. I felt panic surge again as I clutched the pendant tighter. Just as I was about to turn to run, I realized I had to know. That's when I heard her voice, soft, but clear in the chaos. "Find the truth." I spun around, but it was too late. The darkness was upon us, and I was left with more questions than answers. I hardly had time to process that voice before the shadows dashed forward, their forms shifting like smoke. I stumbled back, gripping the pendant tightly, fear coursing through me. The man pulled me away from the box, but I resisted. The pendant felt like a lifeline, tethering me to something I needed to understand. "Let's go," he insisted, scanning the tree line frantically, but I couldn't leave. Not now. The shadows lunged at us, and I finally stepped back, letting him lead me away. We dashed through the trees, the urgency of our flight propelling us forward. The forest closed around us, dark branches clawing at our clothes, as if the woods themselves wished to keep us trapped. "Do you think they're following us?" I gasped, my breath coming in sharp bursts. My heart raced, not just from fear, but from the thrill of discovery. "I have no idea," he said, casting a glance over his shoulder. "We need to find a safer place to regroup." It was hard to concentrate on his words, the adrenaline thrumming in my veins. My mind kept flicking back to the pendant and the voice I had heard. What did "find the truth" mean? After what felt like an eternity of dodging branches and roots, we stumbled into a small clearing. It was eerily quiet, the oppressive feeling from before lifting slightly. "Here," he said, pushing me into the middle of the clearing before scanning the perimeter. "What's that?" I blinked, trying to regain my composure. "What?" "Your hand," he pointed. I looked down at the pendant, still glowing faintly in my palm. The warmth was now resonating with a gentle rhythm, pulsing like a heartbeat. The symbols carved into the pendant called out to me, urging me to delve deeper. With trembling hands, I turned it over, searching for more clues. "Maybe we can use it as a—" he started, but the shadows broke from the tree line and surrounded us again, breaking our moment of reprieve. The shapes were more defined now, darker and looming like nightmares come to life. "This can't be happening," I said, panic swelling in my chest. I felt the weight of the pendant pulling me strange directions, almost leading me toward the deepest shadows. "Whatever you're thinking, don't," he shouted, his tension palpable. "We need to run." But before I could respond, the shadows surged forward again. They seemed smarter this time, intent on preventing our escape. I instinctively raised the pendant as if it were a shield, my mind racing with thoughts of my mother and the memories clouded by time. That's when a burst of energy flowed from the pendant, flickering through the air like a shimmering wave. The shadows hesitated for just a moment, the glow emanating from the pendant casting strange patterns on their dark forms. "Wait, it's reacting to them," the man shouted. I was both terrified and fascinated. Could this pendant actually protect us? Before I could think of a strategy, the shadows pressed forward, their intentions clear. "Find the truth," the voice echoed in my mind again, and with it came a sudden determination. "Let's go," I yelled, grabbing his wrist and bolting in the opposite direction, the pendant warm in my hand, pulsing as if urging me onward. As we sped through the forest, I realized that hiding was no longer an option. I needed to uncover the truth behind the pendant and whatever dark forces were hunting us. And just as I thought we might find a moment of safety, I caught a glimpse of movement in the trees ahead. I wasn't sure if it was friend or foe, but one thing was certain. We were far from safe. I bolted toward the movement, my heart pounding in my chest. The shadows weren't far behind, dark figures swirling like a tempest. The man pulled me back just as I was about to crash into whatever was ahead. "Wait," he hissed, his breath warm against my ear. "We don't know what it is." I was about to protest, but then I saw it too. A figure shrouded in a tattered cloak, partially hidden in the underbrush. My instincts were torn between fear and curiosity. Was this another horrifying twist in our chaotic night, or something that could help us? "Get down," the man urged, pushing me to the ground. We crouched behind a thicket, hearts racing as we listened to the rustle of leaves. The cloaked figure stepped forward, revealing a glint of silver. Was that a knife? My breath caught, but rather than hostile, their demeanor felt more lost than threatening. I squinted, trying to make sense of what was happening. "What do we do?" I whispered, gripping the pendant tighter. "Let's wait and see," he replied, eyes fixed on the moving figure. As I watched, the cloaked person began to dig at the forest floor with a slender stick. Each scrape of earth shifting echoed my unease. Then, suddenly, without warning, they halted, as if sensing our presence. "Show yourself," they called, voice steady but edged with weariness. The man and I exchanged worried glances. This could go very wrong, very quickly, but if the pendant was powerful enough to repel the shadows, then perhaps it could help negotiate. "I think we should reveal ourselves," I said, though doubt laced my words. "Are you sure?" he asked, brow furrowed. Before I could answer, the shadows swept into the clearing, darkening the space around us. I raised the pendant, its warmth flaring up as I stepped forward. "I have the pendant!" I shouted, urgency propelling my voice. "It might help us." The cloaked figure turned cautiously, eyes widening as the glow from the pendant illuminated the area. The shadows hesitated again, their forms shifting under the light. "Your pendant," the figure said slowly, taking a step closer. "It's connected to what lies buried. You need to uncover it before they take you." A chill ran down my spine. "Buried? What do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. As the cloaked figure reached out, The shadows snaked around them, dark tendrils clawing at their legs. The pendant throbbed in my hand, sensing the urgency. Every instinct told me to flee, but something held me in place. "I can help you," they said urgently, eyes locked onto mine. "You have to trust me, too." Then, without warning, the shadows lunged towards us, breaking the moment of fragile trust. I felt the pull of the pendant, urging me forward. The figure's cloak billowed as they raised a hand toward the shadows, a barrier shimmering into existence between us. "Go now!" they shouted as the shadows collided with the barrier, dark hisses filling the air. I didn't think twice. Grabbing the man's wrist, we dashed toward the cloaked figure, propelled by the desperate hope that they truly could offer answers. But just as we reached them, everything shifted. The ground rumbled and I heard the voice again, louder this time, more commanding. "Find the truth." Then everything went dark. I jolted awake, blinking against the darkness. My body felt heavy, like I was still wrapped in the fog of nightmares. The shadows loomed, and for a moment I thought I was still trapped in that moment of panic. "Are you okay?" a voice asked, cutting through the haze. It was the man, his face carved into the dim light, concern etched all over it. I nodded, though I wasn't sure if I believed myself. Where were we? The ground felt cool beneath me, and I pushed myself up. I realized we were in a small clearing, surrounded by the remnants of trees that sprawled like skeletal fingers against the night sky. There was no sign of the cloaked figure or the shadows, just silence. "What happened?" I whispered, my voice hoarse. "I think we passed out," he said, watching the surroundings as though something might leap out at us. "But it feels different here, like we're on the other side of something." I looked around. I couldn't shake the sensation that something important was missing. The pendant felt colder in my palm, and I tightened my grip around it. "Did we—" I hesitated, unsure how to voice the question. "Did we leave them behind?" "I don't know," he replied, shaking his head. "But we need to move." Before he could finish, I caught a glint in the dirt, just a few feet away. "Look!" I pointed, my heart racing with sudden excitement. "There's something there." Cautiously, we moved toward the disturbed earth. The spot was fresh, as if someone or something had dug it up recently. I knelt down, brushing the loose soil away with trembling fingers. That's when I saw it. A small twisted silver locket half buried under the dirt. I pulled it free, my breath hitching as I recognized its familiar design. It belonged to my mother. "Where did you find that?" he asked, eyes wide. "In our backyard," I replied, my heart racing. 5 years ago, she said it was gone, lost forever. A memory flashed in my mind, vivid and jarring. My mother frantically searching, tears streaming down her face, her voice pleading as she told me there were things meant to stay buried. I felt a wave of cold wash over me. How could this be here now? "What does this mean?" I asked, fear creeping back. "Is this connected to the shadows?" "Maybe," he murmured. "But we're not safe yet." I glanced over my shoulder. The shadows had a way of creeping up when you least expected them. "What do we do now?" I asked, gripping the locket tight. "We need to find the cloaked figure again. They said uncovering the truth would protect us," he said, determination painting his features. Before we could gather our thoughts, a chilling wind swept through the clearing, sending a shiver down my spine. I sensed a change. In the air, in the darkness itself. "That's them," I whispered, eyes scanning the edges of the clearing. "We have to run," he urged, taking my hand. "We need to get out of here, fast." As we turned to flee, I felt the locket's edges bite into my palm, as if calling to me. The need for answers burned within me, conflicting with the urge to escape. Who was I becoming in this unknown world? And what else had my mother hidden? The shadows surged forward, and instinct kicked in. I sprinted ahead, dragging him into the depths of the dark forest once more, determined to find the truth, no matter the cost. The trees closed in around us as we ran, branches snapping like bones underfoot. I fought to control my breathing, but panic surged each time I heard a rustle or felt the shadows lengthening behind us. He kept glancing back, his grip firm on my hand, urging me forward. "Just a little further," he shouted over the wind. "We need to find cover." "Cover?" I gasped, just as a branch whipped past my face. I tried to keep my focus, but my thoughts were tangled. The locket burned in my hand, each step a reminder of the secrets buried just beneath our feet. We finally stumbled into a thicket, its dense foliage a welcome relief. We ducked down, trying to catch our breath while listening for the signs of our pursuers. The shadows seemed to swell, breathing their darkness into the night, but the lull of silence was deceptive. "What now?" I said, trying to steady my pounding heart. "Do you think we lost them?" "I don't know." His eyes darted in every direction, tension tightening around his jaw. "But we need to talk about that locket." I examined it in the dim light filtering through the leaves. The metal glinted ominously, but it was the engraving that drew me in. My mother's initials, intricately woven into the design, held a promise and a warning all at once. "There's something she wanted me to know," I said, my voice laced with uncertainty. "But I can't remember." "Maybe it's tied to the cloaked figure," he suggested. "That's why we need to find them." Before I could answer, a rustling broke the silence, sharper and more insistent. My stomach dropped as I turned to see a shadowy figure moving just beyond the tree line. My heart raced. Could it be the cloaked figure? "It can't be," he said quietly, eyes widening. "We must stay hidden." But a telltale flicker of recognition surged through me. My instincts screamed, urging me to call out. "Wait!" I shouted, half out of instinct, half out of desperation. "Please!" The figure paused, and the shadows flickered like flames. I could barely make out their features. They weren't cloaked but hooded, the fabric dark and shifting as if alive. "You shouldn't have called for me," the figure said, voice low and haunting. "Who are you?" I demanded, my heart racing anew. "What do you want?" "I'm here for the truth." The figure stepped closer, revealing a familiar face half hidden in shadows. My heart sank. "And so are you." "Do I know you?" I whispered, the fear creeping back with a tight grip. "Your mother was not the only one hiding things," they said, the voice echoing in my mind like a distant memory. "She buried her secrets deep, but it's time you faced them." "What do you mean?" The figure leaned closer, and the darkness seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. "You have the locket. You must decide. Follow me, or the shadows will consume everything you love." I glanced at him, uncertainty painting his features. The locket's cold weight felt like a ticking clock in my hand. I didn't understand fully, but I felt an unsettling urgency to uncover the past. "Now what?" I asked, breathless as I met the figure's piercing gaze. The answer I sought dangled before me, but the shadows closed in tighter. My pulse quickened, desperate for clarity amid the confusion. "Choose," the figure said. "You can either stay, or you can come with me and learn the truth." And just like that, everything hung in the balance. I stood there, frozen, the weight of the locket pressing against my palm. The heaviness of the shadows loomed nearby, a reminder of the danger that thrummed in the air. My heart raced, torn between the desire to flee back to safety and the overwhelming need to uncover the secrets my mother had kept hidden for years. "Please," the figure whispered, an aura of urgency in their voice. "You must choose quickly." Their face shifted slightly in the dim light, and I almost recognized the features that seemed familiar, yet shrouded in shadow. "Who are you?" I asked again, breathless. "Why should I trust you?" "Trust comes when you're faced with the truth," they said, their voice steady but edged with a hint of desperation. "You want to know what your mother was trying to protect you from? Follow me, and I can show you." I glanced over at the man beside me. His expression was guarded, doubt etched on his face. "This could be a trap," he warned, his grip on my wrist tightening. "We have no idea what's waiting for us if we go with them." "But staying here may not be an option," I shot back, feeling the shadows claw at my resolve. "They're already closing in." The figure raised a hand and I felt the air grow colder, shadows swirling at the edges of the forest, inching closer. "You need to act, or you may lose everything," they urged. "I promise you will understand once you see the truth." Every instinct told me to run in the opposite direction, to forget about this entire nightmare. But the locket glowed in my hand, a pulse of warmth driving me forward. If this was a chance to learn something about my mother's past, to confront whatever darkness she had kept buried, then maybe I had to take it. "I'll go," I said, the words spilling out before fear could catch up. Both the figure and my companion turned to look at me. "I need to figure out what's happening," I continued, determination settling in my chest. "Are you sure?" the man asked, his voice softening. "I can't lose you too." The figure nodded, eyes glimmering. "Time is short. We're losing our moments to the shadows." They extended a hand toward me, waiting. "I'm coming," I said firmly, taking a step toward the figure. I felt uncertainty claw at my gut, but that uncertainty appeared small next to the weight of knowledge I craved. "Let's go." As I stepped forward, shadows swirled around us, and the man hesitated, glancing between us with panic etched across his features. "You don't have to do this," he pleaded. "I have to." There was a quiet finality in my voice. I felt the shadows creep closer as my heart pounded in time with the pulsing glow of the locket. I could feel everything tightening around us, waiting for my decision. With a determined inhale, I opened my mind to whatever awaited me. The figure took my hand, and in an instant, the world shifted. The shadows clung to us at first, swirling like mist, but as we moved forward, they began to recede. They were drawn back as if unwilling to follow into the light that began to surround us. Suddenly, the darkness broke apart, revealing a pathway layered with vibrant, shimmering colors, a stark contrast to the oppressive night. I could hardly believe the beauty that unfolded as we moved deeper into what felt like another realm. Each step seemed to carry notes of my mother's laughter, faint but unmistakable. "Where are we?" I breathed, the fear slowly fading as curiosity blossomed. "This is where the truth lives," the figure replied, their voice warm like the sun breaking through clouds. "Your mother protected you from what you couldn't understand. But it's time for you to realize your place in this." As the vibrant hues wrapped around us, I felt teetering thoughts pushing through the veil of comfort. "What if this doesn't end well?" I whispered, anxiety creeping back in. "No truth comes without risk," the figure said, not faltering. "But without it, you risk losing yourself." A sliver of doubt remained lodged in my chest, but the locket seemed to pulse, alive with energy beckoning me deeper. I chose to follow, knowing it was a path only I could walk. Just then, the swirling shadows flared around us, shapes forming just beyond the vibrant light, as if the threat still lurked, waiting. Yet the figure's hand tightened around mine, as if to remind me that I was not alone as we traversed into uncertain territory. But uncertainty was just the beginning. As we stepped into that boundless glow, facing whatever awaited, it dawned on me. The truth would change everything. But it was a truth I was ready to confront, even if all the answers remained obscured. And somewhere in the distance I thought I could hear the echoes of whispered voices saying, "Find the truth." But even then, I realized I might never really know. All I had left was this journey, and for now, that had to be enough.